Welcome to the Pittsburgh Nerd Podcast vlog. I'm Sean, I'm your host, and it's Saturday. You know what that means. It's time for the Wrestling Report. And an interesting week this week in pro wrestling for the two major brands. I watched Raw this week. I don't normally I'm at work on till 10 o'clock at night, so I don't watch really Raw or SmackDown. I'll just watch the highlights on YouTube, but I DVR AEW and watch it when I'm done with work. But I was off work on Monday, and I decided, let me give Raw a shot. And so I tuned in at the last hour and a half of the show. So I tuned in about 9:30-ish. The Matt Riddle AJ Styles match was very, very good. I caught the end of a hardcore match of some type. I can't remember who was involved with that. I thought the cage match was a very good cage match between Big E and Bobby Lashley for the world title, or the WWE title. I guess I don't have a world title. The thing that drove me nuts is, I don't know who directs. I guess it's Kevin Dunn is the guy who's in charge of the look of the programs, but the way they cut to cameras, every second, it's boom, 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 cut, 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 cut. So you watch a move and you see a guy pick him up from one angle, you see him get him up from another angle, and then you see him put him down to the third angle. It's like, why? What? It was very. I don't know how to describe it. It felt like it felt overproduced, I guess, to me. I don't know why that is. People like it. People watch Raw. But to me, that was a major, major drawback to how the show's presented. Like I said, there were some good matches. I really can't complain about the match quality that I saw for the most part. But it baffled me how they cut. So that was my big complaint. I understand, apparently, particularly on Raw, because they're threatened in the ratings by AEW, that I've been told the past 2-3 weeks have been much better storylines and booking. But overall, just the look of the show hurt, for me at least. I was like, what is going on? I get you want to get, we want that down low, that camera angle looking up into the ring or from the ring, or even, something close up. But, I do like that hard cam shot from way back, so I can see the action. I can see what's taking place. It seemed so tight, and then again, cut. So that was my big complaint watching Raw. SmackDown was the draft. I don't think there was anything overly shocking that took place during the draft. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there was some NXT properties that moved up to the main roster, particularly I think the Hit Company or something like that. They were drafted to SmackDown. I think that's part of the clearinghouse for NXT 2.0. Get some of these people that have been around for a while, get them off of the brand, and do what you will with them on the main roster while we completely reboot NXT. So you had that. To me, nothing. I didn't check out everything, but there was nothing that jumped out to me that said, oh God, this is so amazing, or really caught my attention on SmackDown, other than, the draft took place and some people changed and some people remained where they were. Most notably, Charlotte Flair moved to SmackDown. I think that was the biggest move, if I recall correctly. That leaves with AEW, and the big show from Rochester. This is a show that had been rescheduled from March or April of last year. This is the show that Matt Hardy and Brody Lee were supposed to make their debuts at, but because of the pandemic, clearly those shows got postponed. And now AEW is trying to, come back, and I know they're trying to, create dates for those shows that were scheduled and missed. And so this was the Rochester show, and so they dedicated it to the memory of Brody Lee, and that was a nice thing. So on that note, the whole Dark Order thing with -1 and Brody Lee's wife, John Huber's wife, coming down and kind of, that's the word I want to use. Confronting. I couldn't think of that word. I'm sorry, but they confronted Evil Uno essentially, and Stu Grayson and Colt Cabana, and apparently the Dark Order is back to being one big happy family again. So that was nice. The two big matches on Dynamite were the opener with Adam Cole against Jungle Boy. That was a great match. Really good match. And again, it's one of those matches, at some point, and I get it, you can't bury Adam Cole yet. You can't. I don't want to use the term bury. I hate that. But you can't have Adam Cole lose yet. But yet, I feel like Jungle Boy's in that position that he needs that big win over a big name. For Darby, it was Cody. And I feel like Jungle Boy's in that position now where he needs that big win over a big name to kind of let you know he is the future. We all know he is the future. MJF, and we're going to get to MJF in a minute, but MJF, the four young pillars. And but I feel like Jungle Boy's in a position where he needs that big win now to kind of solidify that spot. And he's had big matches against big names, but he always seems to fall short. And especially in a solo position, I feel like he needs that big win to kind of solidify what we already know. But that was a great match. Him and Adam Cole really went at it, and a good match to start off the show. And then at the end, Sammy Guevara versus Miro for the TNT title. Sammy beats Miro, and I'm happy for Sammy. This is again, Sammy has a couple of big wins under his belt. But this was the match that, again, you feel like these young studs are ready to go, and Sammy gave you that match. him and Miro had a very good match. Miro beat the hell out of him, but to have Sammy prevail at the end and be the new TNT champion, I think is a very big deal. And I kind of hope, I don't think Miro's going to be pushed aside, but I do kind of hope him and Sammy kind of have a run now, a little bit of a run. Just a couple more matches where Miro's trying to win that title back. He feels he was robbed, or God, something about God on high and his wife below have told him that he is destined, something like that. And him and Sammy have maybe two more matches where it's Miro trying to get that title back, and somehow Sammy survives him. Or Miro wins the title back, and then they have a third match, the rubber match, and Sammy goes over. I think that'd be great too. So I mean, there's a lot of things you can do still, and I like the idea of rematches. Like, AEW doesn't do that very often. Usually, when a guy loses the title, for the most part, he disappears. Like, he goes by the wayside, or she. There are rare exceptions. I mean, when Jericho lost the title to Moxley, Jericho moved on to other things. When Moxley lost the title to Omega, their feud continued for a while. But if you look back, like, for the most part, like, when Cody lost the TNT title to Darby, he moved on to other things. When Darby lost the title to Miro, he moved on to other things. When Nyla Rose had to fight back up to get a rematch with Shida, that wasn't like an automatic thing. When Shida lost the title to Britt Baker, there was no rematch. So and Shida kind of gets brushed to dark. So it's like I do think they can do a better job of putting champions and former champions in a position where they're still in the title hunt. I think that's the thing. Like, if you look back, like, even before the Attitude Era, when the new generation, we'll call it, when Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Diesel, when those guys, even like after and into the Attitude Era, there was always these guys that was like, well, they're vying for position to get into that title hunt, or these top level guys, and they were all, the world title was always in the conversation. You look at like Taker, Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle. Like, those guys were always like, they were feuding with each other all the time. But those matches would have implications on who was next for the world title. And I don't, like, I know they do the rating system, but I don't feel like like those top guys, like right now, Orange Cassidy's ranked number 1 for the world title. I love Orange. Orange is fun. I enjoyed the hair match on Rampage. But I mean, there was a reason why they put Orange in a world title match with Kenny Omega in a 3-way with Pac. He's great. I love Orange to death. He's fun, but his place isn't at that spot. You know what I mean? They have to find other ways to get Chris Jericho back into that title mix. Even if he doesn't win the title, he's in that title mix. You have to find ways to get MJF into there. You have to find ways to get Moxley in there. There's those level of guys that they have to always be kind of vying for the title. They have to be, those top guys. And, I know, we've got the dream match right now. Everybody's talking about, Omega and Danielson at Full Gear. I mean, we shall see, but like I like that mix. I like where guys where their matches. This feud isn't just because we hate each other. This feud is because I want your spot because I want to be next for the world title. That's what those feuds were always about back in the day in the WWE and in WCW. Like there was that group of guys that were always in the mix, and even going back to the '80s with like it was always Dusty and Sting and Lex, and I mean there were guys that were just they were vying for Flair, and Flair was just kind of like taking on the next guy, but they were competing for that spot. So I don't know. That's just my opinion on that. The MJF promo, the MJF Darby promo, that's what I should say. That was phenomenal. I am looking forward to that feud. I want to see where it goes. I want to see what MJF has in mind for Darby. Talking about mentally breaking him. I mean, this is going to be a completely different style of feud. I like that. So I think that's going to be fun. And I think I like stupid. I like stupid shit like, hey, I've got Bruce Pritchard on my speed dial. It's stuff like that. I like because it's what AEW does best in acknowledging that they're not. The forbidden door is already open, but even acknowledging WWE. Like it doesn't have to be a shot at WWE. I don't think I think sometimes the wrestlers go out of their way a little bit to take that shot at WWE, but there's a lot of times where, you have to mention a lot of these guys are from WWE. They, I think Adam Cole should be recognized as a multiple-time world champion. I think, they acknowledge it. They acknowledge that Bryan Danielson's won multiple world titles. You can't. I think it would be dumb to ignore their past, which they don't do. But it's just one of those things where you got to keep it in mind. This is the last place he was when he when he was in WWE. He won multiple titles. So I like that they kind of do that. That's kind of neat, and it doesn't make you go oh wow, if he was in WWE, let me check out WWE. You know what I mean? It doesn't do that. It just reminds you that these people have been around. They've done other things. They're not just new. Hey, this guy's brand new. We've never seen him before. Because that's what Vince will do. That's what WWE will do. They will not acknowledge, this guy was in Ring of Honor. This guy was in, GWP. He New Japan. They won't acknowledge stuff like that. It's like, look at this new product we found. They've been doing it for years. That's just the way they do things. It's kind of weird, but that's the vacuum they want to live in, and it works well for them. But I think AEW doesn't live in that vacuum, and so they have to acknowledge that you've done stuff elsewhere. I guess the last thing was, the Arn promo after the Cody Lee Johnson tag team match. That was interesting. That was Arn Anderson. Plain and simple. I mean that was a Horseman Anderson promo. And that's. I've never expected Cody to go full dark side. He never has. He never will. Well, I shouldn't say never has, never will. I feel like that's not Cody's thing. Like, he doesn't want to be a heel, but he can play heelish. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go. It was a fun promo. The whole "I'll pull the Glock and spell out your brains on the concrete." That was vintage Arn Anderson. It was I appreciated the hell out of it. So we'll see where this goes. And that's basically it. I should touch on the whole news about, I guess, the EVPs losing power in AEW, Cody, Kenny Omega, and the Bucks. But to me, it's not news. Like I never felt like. I feel like maybe at the beginning, Tony Khan let them have their way a bit, and like I'm sure there are some signings that maybe they facilitated or Jericho facilitated. While he's on an EVP in name, he has a lot of pull. So I feel like maybe like in that first year, maybe there were some signings that they had that they facilitated that Tony Khan is kind of looking back on and saying, I wish we hadn't pulled that trigger. But at the same time as well, I've never looked at it as, I know others have it, or they're just running amok. They're just spending this money, Mark's money. They're making sure their friends get paid, and I never thought it was that way. I think the pulling back of the reins, I feel, is more along the lines of Tony Khan wanting the control. I don't feel like this is a punishment for what you did in the past, because I think what they did in the past was good enough. But I feel like this is Tony Khan still being the kid that was booking Dynamite when he was 12. Like I can do this all. And I don't know what his responsibilities are with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know what his responsibilities are with Fulham FC. I don't imagine this guy gets much sleep. I don't. I feel like this is his way of holding all the control for himself, because it's his. And the only person I'm going to trust is me. And I get that in a way. That was Vince McMahon for years. We talk about the writers now and everything that goes on with WWE and how AEW doesn't have writers or anything. But I do feel like, Tony Khan looks back at 90s Vince McMahon. I think he looks at 90s Eric Bischoff. I think he probably has had conversations with Eric Bischoff. Because Bischoff's been on the show a few times. I have no doubt that they have sat down and had conversations. And, Eric Bischoff kind of telling him, it's yours. You should be in control of this. Don't let outside influences take this from you. And I think that's kind of what his mindset is. And that, and until you get the feeling that the product stinks, other than Jim Cornette, most of us are out here going, this is a pretty damn good product. So, but I get it. I think it's just right now, AEW's on the precipice. This is an important. This next year, these next 12 months are going to be hugely important to AEW, in my opinion, because it's going to make a determination if you are a jacked up version of ECW or if you are a true contender to the throne. Because right now, they're a jacked up version of ECW. And by that, I mean ECW was extraordinarily popular. They did phenomenal TV ratings. They were, they were booking small venues and selling them out. But, it's a matter of, do you take that next step? You're averaging over 1 million viewers a week on Dynamite now, on average, the past, 4 or 5 weeks. So it's a very important year now. We just celebrated, the 2-year anniversary of Dynamite. We're going to celebrate, officially celebrate that on Wednesday. 2 years of Dynamite. So this next year is an important one because it's really going to tell everybody if they can, if they're just going to be like good or are they going to be great. So there's my 2 cents. I know nothing. I just know what I watch and have my opinion. That's all I'm giving you. So that's it. That's the wrestling vlog for this week. Remember, we do have a regular podcast where we talk all sorts of nerdy stuff. You can find that podcast at Pittsburgh Nerd. Just search Pittsburgh Nerd. We're on Spotify now. We're on Spotify. Shocking. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out anywhere you get good podcasts. You can find us darn near any place. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Pittsburgh Nerd. We're very, very easy to find. And we can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for checking out my ramblings. I hope you enjoy. And on that note, the dreamer has awakened.